Welcome everybody to Carpet Python TV. Yes, I did claim that name, Carpet Python TV. Yeah, there's the man himself laughing in the background. I'm going to just introduce you guys. Let me just quickly do a little introduction. I'm on the show today. We've got Eric Burke from EB Morelia. To give you a little bit of background about Eric, Eric's very involved in the carpet python industry in the US, and it's because of Eric and some of his cutting edge ideas, I'd say, that originally I'm not sure if he was the only one behind the Carpet Fest, so I don't want to insult anybody, but it's because of these guys working hard that Carpet Fest came to light over in the US, and that's what we're talking about today, amongst other things. So let me not hold him back. Let me introduce you this Eric Burke from EB Morelia. Let me just do this quickly. There we go, Eric. You deserve one of these. There we go. Welcome to the show, mate.
Oh man, it's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have you on. You'll be our first official international guest, and I'm hoping this sort of opens a door for many, many more international guests to come on. Let me just quickly do all these little bits and pieces here that I can, so you can see what's going on. Where did you go? Sorry. Let me just stop this from happening. You can see the chat. Is everything okay on your side? You can see everything, yeah?
I can't see the chat now.
Hold on. Sorry about that. Oh, I don't know what I did there. Hang on. Here we go. I told you. It's never just straightforward. Stop recording. I think that's what's suddenly happened here. Where do I turn off the settings? Sorry, folks. I would like to just stop sharing my screen. Here we go. Stop sharing.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, now we go. Okay, sorry. Oof, my goodness. Few people watching already, so don't want people to miss out. So we'll try and hold the questions till sort of halfway through the show. I don't know how long halfway is. I mean, how long's a piece of string, they say in Australia, we don't know. Here we go. Right. There's here we go. Faye and Teresia from Australia saying hello. I met you at Tinley Park, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that have seen you around the traps. So let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in reptiles in general, and sort of what are you keeping yourself busy now at the moment?
How I got started in reptiles really comes down to when I've pretty much the same story ever since I was a kid, going out into the woods with my dad and looking for snakes and stuff. And, I got a garter snake and I was amazed by it. And next thing you know, I had a Burmese python because my dad thought that would be a good idea. Growing up, he had a big venomous collection. I was exposed to that. And I got out of it for a while. And then I came back in like the early 2000s. And over here in the States that's when the ball python craze hit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people were doing this as a job. And, I got that little bug going and thinking, oh, wow, man, how cool would it be to work with reptiles for a living, Yeah. And then I found I had this idea that I wanted to keep as many species of pythons as I could. And I found the carpet python. And I went through some moving and stuff. And, the carpet python always stayed with me because they were just bulletproof. No matter what happened.
Was there anybody in particular that introduced you to carpets, or did you just get, where did you get your first one from? Do you remember?
My first one was from a local pet shop.
Okay.
Some kind of mix of something, who knows what, carpet python, but they sold it as a jungle carpet. My first official carpet python came from Jason Balin.
Oh, right.
He's the guy here in the States that works with the tiger stripe stuff.
I'm sure everybody that's been involved in carpets know about Jason Balin. I mean, some of those things are incredible. But keep going. Sorry, I don't want to chip in.
Yeah. No worries. And from there, I just I I wanted to do something different than a lot of the people in the States were doing ball pythons. And I'm like looking at this group of snakes and I'm like, man, nobody's really doing anything with these. I wonder if, this could happen. Yeah, one thing led to another. And now I have, I don't know, 300 plus carpet pythons.
Yeah, those are, what's that meme on Facebook? How many have you got? Rookie numbers. You have to bump up those numbers, like that sort of, it never stops. You think, 300. Yeah, no, maybe I should slow down, and then 100 more. You're suddenly going, "Oh, I don't know. It's turning into hard work, but
more, right?
I could take 50 more, and then it's breeding season on top of that,
Right.
Oh my goodness. So tell me, so you got a large collection of carpet pythons. Do you still keep other species, or are you just focusing on the carpet
I
side?
do.
Yeah.
So over the course of time, from 2000s, I think I've kept 37 different species of pythons.
Yeah.
Currently, I have mostly Australian pythons. Is really what I work with. I have Angolans, ring pythons.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else I have that's different than the norm. I work with some locality retics.
Yeah. What, the large retics or smaller?
The super dwarf stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw you had Gareth Hartle on the other day. Well, I haven't listened to that yet, but I thought that might be an interesting. It seems to be controversial as well now. It's always controversy around purity. Huh?
Yeah.
What is up with that?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah,
Controversy
it's
around.
one of those things.
Just stop for spirits to just stop and give it a rest. I don't know. Come on, bloody hell! It seems to be always in the news. Purists. Oh well. So
the thing that with that always gets me is like it always traces back to somebody that you have to trust. You have to take somebody's word at some point unless you collected it, and if you didn't, then you gotta go with it. And some people, I guess, trust some people, and some people don't trust other people. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's the same. It's the same. It's the same in Australia.
Yeah.
I always used to say, because I used to be in heavy, us mutation guys and purists. Our biggest point is that is the big point. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you're saying it's pure, but where did you get it from? And did that person catch it in the bush? That was always the argument. And then that's where the purists sometimes fall apart, because they but like we got told. And this is not me picking on the purists. I'm just saying that there's flaw in the argument sometimes. And a lot of guys, fortunately in Australia, if majority of the guys have worked selectively with lines that they probably knew the guy that collected it. I mean, that's a positive here. Although I do find that it's a bit watered down at the moment. Like everybody jumped on the mutation ship, and there's only a few guys working with locality stuff. And then when does locality start to become line bred? That's sort of my argument. If you want to be locality, then you just randomly mate pairings. You don't select for the best ones that you like. You have to keep the gene pools, you have to keep them looking the way that they look like in that region, but I'm just mumbling now. So, but that's nitpicking, at the end of the day, I reckon it's, you keep what you like to look at. That's what it boils down to,
100%. I have both, just what we consider pure, and then also I Frankenstein up the morphs. I love both worlds.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I know you've got an affinity for the. Oh, let's not say the word. Let's not, because it's always a joke. Are they Papuan carpets now, or they're not IJ anymore?
Papuan carpets. Yeah.
They're all controversial.
That's how we say it in PA.
The funny, the funny thing is, in 2004. I remember I was at the British Herpetological Supplies depot in the UK, and they just received a shipment from Indo. Was it 2004? It could have been earlier, 2003 maybe. And I remember prior to that, I've only ever worked with coastal carpets, because carpets. I was in my 20s when I got my first carpet python in South Africa, and they represented coastals. I mean, remember, they were big, chunky snakes, and there were illegal exports from Australia prior to 78 or 75 or something of carpet pythons, So I was used to working with those, and when they born, they're pretty bland, like a standard coastal carpet python's pretty black and white, or pretty,
Sure.
The normal natural tones in them are quite boring. But I remember seeing them opening a bag coming directly from Indo, and those carpets were hatchlings, but they were they were so red, and that's where, and they were labeled as IJs.
Yeah.
Now they've had changes now. I mean, I agree that, if they're not really from that region, then they shouldn't be named that. But, that's what they were sold out of Indo as, IJ carpets, But they were so nice. You like them, though. You do. You've got quite a large selection of those, don't you? The Papuans.
Yeah. Yeah. I have... that's probably the biggest group of subs. Well, I don't know what you want to consider them at this point, subspecies, whatever, of them in my collection. But for us here in the States, you can't really get, imported carpets. You can only get those imported. So, I know that they're farm hatched or captive or caught in the field or whatever, and I can start, lines. And, here in the States, there's this, I don't know how it is in Australia, but we have this obsession with yellow and black. And if it's not yellow and black, it's no good. But that's sort of starting to change, I think. But there's so much potential. There's so much potential with these snakes for selective breeding,
But still, you know what? I went to you're talking about yellow and black. I went to the Victorian Expo 3 weeks ago now, and the best in show there. I was walking around, and there was a guy that I haven't seen in years. Ash. He's used to be a carpet. He's a carpet breeder locally, but he's not high profile or on the internet, or I never see him around. But on his table, he had a display there with a black and yellow jungle in there, man. And there's just something about a beautiful, high contrast, black and yellow jungle that shits, sorry about the word, all over any other, like they shit over other mutations, if they don't have tipping and if it's clean, man, you can't beat them.
Yeah. I mean, we used to, we would be, when we started vending shows, and carpets weren't as popular here in the States. And, when we would go and vend shows, you would have these yellow and black every time. We would have diamond jungle jags sitting on our table, or jungles or whatever it would be. And people would stop. Oh my God, what is that? I need that.
And they always sell out.
What kind of ball python is that? It's not a ball python.
Oh yeah, there's somebody here that said how do you say it's in a Dexler? Lon Dexler? If it's called if it's called Bigfoot in the States, Sasquatch in Canada, Swamp Ape in Florida, and Yeti in the Himalayas, what is it called down under? Asking for Owen. So you must know Lon.
Yeah, I know Lon. What's up, Lon?
So I told you there's going to be a whole bunch of smart asses in the chat, and they'll just have their own little discussion in the chat while we're busy. So we'll just keep going with the show.
Okay, keep pushing ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm sure there's so much to talk about, and just wanted to let people know that this might be a long one, but we're ready for it. It's early morning. It's 12 o'clock here on a Saturday, and it's 9 o'clock, so it might be past your bed. What time do you normally go to bed?
I usually go to bed about 10:30. But nah, we're good, man. We can push through. No worries.
You need to get yourself onto Australia time, huh? Never a bad time to start with that, mate. So tell us a bit.
Right.
So with you, it's you're so versatile as a rep, as a character in the carpet python industry. I mean, you've traveled to Australia. You've started the Carpet Fest. You highly involved in doing auctions for US. You've got your finger everywhere in the pie, and you do a podcast as well called Morelia Python Radio that's been going. How many years have you been going with that show now?
This is the 9th year.
So I mean, that in itself is a lot of achievements in a very, very short period of time. And it seems like you're very in tune with keeping uniting the community. Can you tell the viewers, what was your mindset behind it? How did Carpet Fest come to, and the podcast? Tell us a bit. How did you decide to do the Morelia Python? And this is all stuff that brings people together, and it's free sharing of knowledge. And I can't help to think that is all good for the industry, especially in the time of social media. Can you tell us, where did the podcast start? How did Carpet Fest come about, so that people understand a little bit more about what you're about, mate?
So I was a huge fan of Reptile Radio.
Oh, yeah.
They had Reptile Radio, but they focused mostly on ball pythons.
Larry, what was it? Larry and
BT.
Yes. Slow talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, mate.
Yeah. And I would drive to, I'd never forget, every Sunday morning they would do the show on Saturday, and Sunday morning I would be so excited to listen to the new episode. And I didn't even keep ball pythons, but I just love that they would talk reptiles, because let's face it, we all love to talk reptiles, and that's, and you love to listen to people talk about reptiles. So I was like, this is genius. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. I got to figure out how to do this. Yeah. And for a while, I kind of sat on it for a couple years, and finally I made the decision to do one, but do it focused on carpet pythons and Morelia. At the time, Morelia encompassed, scrub pythons and Bolins and all that stuff. But I was fascinated with the whole genus of snakes, and I wanted to, I just wanted to share that. There was people that I was meeting in the hobby, and they had so much knowledge, and the community just seemed like, really cool. So I'm like, man, you guys got to share this knowledge. They need to know who you guys are. So that's kind of how the podcast came along. And it was kind of at this time where I call it the perfect storm. Yeah. They had the Carpet Python book coming out.
That was what was that
podcast?
That was 2010. Man, is that 10 years ago already?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I wasn't being rude. I was just texting my wife to bring me my nasal spray because I can feel I'm getting congested here and I can't talk anymore. We need to talk, Sorry, keep going, man.
Yeah. So so that's kind of how that started. But it was, at the time, it was both the podcast, the book was coming out. We also did this thing when we would go to the reptile show called Carpet Row.
Oh yes.
Where a bunch of us would be in the in the row together at Tinley Park. And I thought, man, the coolest thing about us is our community. And man, we can never talk to each other at a show because you're trying to sell, and people are coming up trying to talk to you, and you want to focus on your customers and stuff. So me and Owen were talking, and I was like, so let me back up, as you saying at the beginning. So this was sort of a thing that came from me and Owen, and we kind of looked at it from
I thought
Chondro
that when I said that, I thought, no, I don't want to insult Owen because I'm sure there'd be something, I'm missing something here. So sorry, mate.
Yeah. But Owen's kind of like my, like, I'm the guy with the crazy ideas, and he kind of like puts me on the track to say whether that's possible or not possible. And sometimes I don't agree with him, and I make it go anyway.
He's the devil's advocate, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, we just wanted to get together and hang out and make the community even tighter. And I think to this day, now I can't believe we're seeing them all over the world, and now it's going to be in Australia. That's just the greatest thing. And I'm telling you, you can, when you're on Facebook and or back then forums, whatever, you're sort of, you're not getting I don't know. Something is lost. And then when you're standing there in front of somebody and you're talking to them, it's a whole different thing. And that's what it was about. Man.
There's nothing to hide behind when you're facing somebody eye to eye. And I saw just I went to Penrith last weekend, and I met some guys there that I've only seen ever post photos on the internet. And you get a different depth from that person than just that flat that a screen. You can there's certain innuendo in the way you say something, and the way you can tell a story that people get that depth, that that there is behind your experiences and stuff like that, you know. And it's definitely it's something that's gone missing. And when you said at the start there, you know, we standing at an expo selling our snakes, it's all about business. So to have a meaningful conversation with somebody that just comes in, that just wants to talk to you about snakes and not necessarily buy something, you can't do that at an expo. And I think this is what I saw at Penrith, because really, I've been thinking about Carpet Fest for, you know, why reinvent the wheel? I was thinking about renaming it, having an Australian name or whatever. But why change something if it's not broken? You know, like, I mean, and it's a well-known name for these type of festivals. I spoke to, you know, I reached out to Steve Crawford. Steve Crawford's used to have a UK Pythons, not Paul Harris, but he used to be over in the UK as well. Years ago, he had another, there used to be a website over there with two guys that worked together. They had Boland's Pythons and stuff. This was before Facebook really took off. I remember trawling the internet for carpet python website, you know, myself, you know, we were the carpet guys, you know, every search term you used to Google the shit out of that, you know. And Steve I've known for years. I've known Steve since he left England and came over here. And I spoke to Steve about Carpet Fest. You know, the funny thing is I spoke to him about, I haven't spoken to him in a while. We made contact a few months back again, and I spoke to him this week, and he said to me in the same comment, he said, you know, they had the first Carpet Fest in England, you know? Yeah. And I went, okay. Well, if it's something that's universally accepted as a place for carpet python guys, I hope you realize just how important your idea was 10 years ago. You know, like, I mean, the relevance of it for everybody now to go, let's have it. I mean, you should, like, I feel like you should, like, I hope you realize that's a pat on the back from me about how, well, what it matters, you know, like, you know, but there's no reason for it not to be in every country of the world, because we all the same. We all love the same. And you know what? It's like me and you talk. I've never spoken to you like this before, but I can feel that that's that mutual interest, and that, you know, we're all friends. You know, and I can guarantee you now that even the guys that I've had some of the biggest arguments with and falling out with over the years, that, you know, in the carpet industry, face to face, we'll be able to talk through it quickly. And then we'll just have a big party afterwards and talk about snakes. That's what it does. This internet barrier that people feel like you can be more aggro online than you would be normally ever in real life. I mean, that is something that does a real disservice to what we're trying to do in the reptile industry. So,
you know, the last Carpet Fest we had, to me, this was what it was all about, and I felt, I guess, I don't know if proud's the right word or whatever, but there's up at the table in my dining room, there's probably 5 people sitting around the table, and they're talking about how they can better keep, you know, carpet pythons or green tree pythons, and you know, they're having this discussion, and like, just to be there and listen to that, you learn so much that you're never going to learn from the internet or a book. It's, I don't know, and to me that was just like, wow, it was really cool.
Because you know what, sometimes in books there are things that guys do in their collections that they think everybody does. Yes. That they never even think that belongs in a book, and then they in a conversation like that, somebody says something, and you go, what? That is what?
100%.
What is that? Why didn't I know about this before? And then people go, oh, okay, so that's the sharing of knowledge. You know, like, I mean, and this is, I'm so glad that you came up with the idea 10 years ago, and we'll copy that in Australia, and I'm going to do the best job that I can over here. And from the response that I've had from the guys that I've approached to come to the event, it's been phenomenal. You know, we're dealing with Corona now. Let's just, you know, the Corona. You know, like, I'm so sick of seeing the Corona. You know, suddenly my newsfeed's full of sponsored posts about Corona and dealing with Corona and videos about Corona. And, you know, I didn't even ask for that, so I can't even switch that off. You know, so hopefully we're providing like an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of viewing that doesn't involve the Corona now. So, you know, it appeals to people because it's non-Corona related.
Right.
But I've had so many guys saying, yeah, we'll be there. You know, depending on whether this Corona thing escalates, I think it's just, I really think this is a very overhyped situation that we're dealing with, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. But if this goes the way I hope it's going, you know, then we'll have another one next year. We'll have another one the year after. You know, we'll move it across Australia, because I want everybody to have a fair shot. You know, I understand not everybody can jump on a plane and fly down. You know, as Australia is a big place.
Sure. Yeah.
But I want to move it around, and, you know, have it at venues. But it's important to have the first venue local for me, because I've got all my bloody camera gear and stuff that I want to take along.
Sure.
But so far, man, it's sad. People know Carpet Fest. They know it.
Yeah.
And it's all because
That's
of
awesome.
you guys, you know?
It's cool.
Hey, at least you got to see. You're such a humble guy, you know. Like, really, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate it. Me. That's Mr. Flamboyant over here. You just sort of, okay, thanks, mate. Thanks. I don't quite know what to say, but thanks, you know. So okay, so tell me, how did you come? So how did Carpet Fest begin, though? I mean, you ran an idea past Owen. You know, let's bring everybody together, and then how did you get it up and going? I mean, what was the early days like with Carpet Fest for those of you that don't know about it?
So, I mean, how did we? I mean, I don't know. I just look like there's two different type of people in the world. There's people that do things, and there's people that talk about things.
Yeah.
And I was like, we talked about this for 2 years, and we're just going to do it. So we picked a spot. That was probably the hardest spot. It's just, I mean, the hardest part was trying to find a spot.
Yep,
you know,
I
at the
agree.
time, me and Owen lived in, you know, small apartments and stuff, and couldn't really do it at our house or anything. And then Howard Redding stepped in, and he said we could use his spot. And we went down to Maryland, and we had it down there for 3 years. And then, you know, me and Owen grew up, and got houses
yeah.
and stuff, and then we took it on ourselves. It's much easier when you're doing it at your spot. But yeah, I mean, that first Carpet Fest, we had maybe 20, 25 people, but, you know, we bonded that even if we do have disagreements, and even if we don't get along or see eye to eye, there's just a bond there that, you know, with that group of people that you just, I don't know how to put it into words, but, you know, we got each other's back, you know.
Yeah, but I don't know. But you know, the thing is, though, you know, like, I don't know when. People always used to be able to not have to agree with everything that somebody has to say, you know. And it seems like arguments now turn absolutely toxic. More so for the person that carries the grudge, you know. Like, I've been seriously trying to put grudges behind me since 1st of January. I thought 2020 is going to be my year of getting rid of all of that baggage of, you know, resentment and bitterness and, you know, grudges. And, you know, it's been liberating to not have to carry that shit, because the only person that gets affected by toxic issues like that amongst other keepers is the person that's carrying it. Those guys go on, they don't even know that you're upset. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, and at the end of the day, I mean, I can understand, you know, like, I can understand you had a punch on in the pub, and, you know, like, you don't like each other, but because of snakes, come on, you know, like, really?
Right. Exactly.
There are far worse things in life, you know. So yeah, so carry on. Sorry, I just wanted to chip in there. You'll see, I'll try not to do that.
No.
Yeah.
No problem, man. Yeah, it's you know, we just got together, we hung out, we had a good time, we made a weekend of it, and then we regrouped, and we thought, like, how can we do this better? What can we do next year to make it better? And you know, and now we're, you know, this will be also the ninth year of Carpet Fest for us here in Northeast. So
that's cool, man. Tell me. So we did have a little touch on this. You know, you do like these trips to Australia, you know, and I do think the 10th year of Carpet Fest. I mean, you can have a local Carpet Fest in America, but wouldn't a 10th year of Carpet Fest in Australia be a nice one to. We could tempt you to come to Australia for a 10th anniversary of Carpet Fest. All of you Americans. The good thing is, from what I've seen about the Aussies in the past, is there's been a lot of you guys come over, for special functions and stuff that you get paid tickets and stuff. The Australians here open their arms for you guys, and you barely have to have an expense when you get here, because you can just go and hang out with them out in the bush, it's great to be American, but I reckon the same courtesy would go from you guys to the breeders from Australia if we ever venture to the 100%. US. That's how great this community is. No matter where you are in the world, if somebody likes the same stuff as you do, they're usually open to come and stay with us, hang out with us. It's great. Right. It's such a great place to be in,
Most times when Australians talk about coming to the U.S., they want to see rattlesnakes. I say, I got the perfect spot for you. We're good to go. We'll show you some rattlesnakes,
Yeah, nice.
But, we're leaving in what did I say? So a week? No, Wednesday.
3 days.
Wednesday. It's in Australia. So, I fell in love, man.
Tell us about earlier. So tell us. Okay, so tell us. So we've covered Carpet Fest. So you're going 10th in your 9th year now, 10 year next year of Carpet Fest. So it's a massive success. You've talked about your podcast. Now tell us about your Australia trips, because you've got some stories about that, man. That's some crazy luck. But I'll let you talk, mate.
So the first time we went to Cairns. We went down to Brisbane. We went out to Chillagoe. And that was sort of like we stayed in that area. The one thing that I came back and told everybody is just about how it connected the dots for me. You read something in a book and they talk about a temperature or what the environment looked like, or, even just the way carpets look, I mean, when we found, we were up in Gelatin, and we found 2 carpets, which was my first carpet. And I swore that it could have passed for a citrus tiger. I said, wait a minute.
Hey, wait. Who let
in Australia, what's going on?
Who let that out of the cage?
Yeah. But that was the first trip, and we were kind of just getting our feet wet, which, and then Scott Eiper took us down to in Brisbane. He took us to see a coastal carpet just to sort of push Owen's buttons, because Owen wasn't with us in that time. So he took us out, and again, you wonder why, baby carpet pythons sometimes are hard to get going right away. And you look at what's around for them to eat, and it's basically little skinks. So then you're like, oh, okay. So that's, it connected the dots for me.
And walking around in that environment, you can feel the humidity, what it feels like on your skin and stuff. That stuff that I try and tell guys that are just getting into carpets. You keep certain species for that long that you sort of, you can put your hand into a cage and you can feel just by putting your hand in there. Look, hang on, this cage is too hot on the hot. I can do it. I don't know if that's something that you can pick up. You keep them for that long.
100%.
You can put your hand in and go. That's too dry, man. That air is too dry. It's too cool on this side. Just from feeling that on your skin. To walk around in their natural environment. I remember going up to Cairns for the first time ever. Man, I got out of that plane and I went, what is this? What is this? It wasn't even the hot season. It was like October, November, and I went, I can't live here. What wants to live here? You know how humid it is, it's muggy, and it's like, man, which human wants to live in? And then people are out there in their jumpers and they're cold, like, what? Really?
Oh, wait a minute.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. So that trip, we found a couple carpet pythons, some scrub pythons, and then we decided that the next trip we were going to go to the Northern Territory, and that's I guess where we found the epic.
I was saying. I saw that. I saw that first photo that you posted of that snake, and I went, "What? where's the 200mm zoom or the 400mm zoom lens that catch you? But I guess you didn't think at that stage that you'd find one in the highest tree and the highest escarpment in the whole world. They're sitting as far away as it could be away from you. That was just crazy. I couldn't believe it.
That story is so crazy because it was a perfect lineup of events. So
yeah.
I'll try to keep it.
Tell us, man. Tell us stories. Tell us. A lot of people don't know about you. Yeah, I've doubted, but a lot of people don't know about this story.
Right. So we were looking for Owen Pelly's for a couple days. Yeah. So we were slotted to be in this area, and hopefully we would find them. And I swore that we were going to find them. I said, I just have a feeling that we're going to find it. And they're like, you're full of shit. Sorry, I don't know. And everybody gave me a hard time. I said, no, man, I just have a feeling that we're going to find the snake. So we're walking around. We don't find nothing. I lose my phone in the Northern Territory.
Of all places, yeah.
Up in a rock escarpment where I have no idea. We looked for it. We couldn't find it. And the next day we moved. I forget where we moved out to. We were in a different spot. We were probably 3 hours away.
Yeah.
And whoever got my phone, I guess there's something on the iPhone that if you send a message, that the message is there and you can reply to it even if it's not unlocked.
Yeah.
So whoever found my phone replied to my wife and said, I found your husband's phone.
Oh, only in Australia.
He found it and put it at the hotel. And I'm thinking like, oh man, these people are going to try to like kill us and steal our organs or something.
You're talking about, a chain of events. It was probably some Aboriginal man with a spear and a big beard that found this thing. That's the type of story you're telling you, yeah?
Right. So we decided to drive back to the spot, and we're like, we're here. Let's give it one more go. So we're out walking around, and sure enough, there was a different feeling that night. I know it sounds crazy, and I know that sounds like, but it just had a different feel that night. And I don't know if it was because it was cooler, maybe the snakes were coming out, whatever it would be. We're coming along the edge, and the guy that's with us, Keith, he just happens to look up, and then you see this snake just coming out of the rock crevice, and it's so far away, and we're like, that can't be. It can't be. There's no way. It can't be. And sure enough, it's just coming out, and it's longer and long, and we're like, it has to be. What other snake could be that long, and skinny. And sure enough, it went up in this tree. Then we're thinking, should we climb the tree? I mean, it was high up.
You think of dangerous ways to get there, without thinking of your personal safety. I know, I've been there. Yeah, I've been there.
That we're trying to locate. So basically what it was doing, it was coming out, and we just watched it for, I guess we watched it for felt like hours, but bats were flying out of the cave. And when the bats were coming out, that snake was just perched waiting for the bat, and boom, waiting to get it. Man, it was awesome. There it was, Owen Pelly python.
Oh my God.
Couldn't be done. And here the guys from the U.S. just roll in like,
and I can guarantee you, old Gavin Bedford would have turned in he would have just gone, I give up. Thrown his hat, walk off.
Well,
I'm gone.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
The thing is that we were slated to meet up with Gavin the next day.
Oh.
And so we did. And, of course, when we told him that we found it, he's like, now we have some cred, because he didn't know who we were. But now we have some cred because we found the snake. So he happened to have one of the ones that he produced that he brought that we got to actually check out.
But that's the thing that people were saying. Remember the first photos you showed of that? People were saying, "Oh, is that in somebody's bag?" I thought it as well. I thought, "No, that has to be staged." That's it. There were people. You followed the progression of that whole looking for the Owen Pelly, flights into the Arnhem Land to go and camp there for weeks, funding being generated to find these snakes, and it took years. Here you go. These guys. How many were you? 3 or 4? How many were you there on the night?
4.
4 of you.
4.
These 4 Yanks coming out, Just look up. Oh,
Look up. There it is.
there it is.
This ain't so hard. What are they talking about?
What makes it worse is is the last group coming through, Dave, Calvin, Keenan, and Brian. Going, I haven't seen any photos. They must wait. They must be waiting for the show to come, and they did it as well. Like, Gavin should have. You know what? Gavin should have just paid a bunch of you guys to come out and say, "Look, I'm gonna send you guys money for flights. Come out here for 2 or 3 nights, and we'll go and find our bellies." And he probably would have had better luck finding them locally. But you know, I've got a theory about that. I remember as a kid growing up in a certain area that was renowned for chameleons. And if you lived in the area, you would never see them because you're just so... It's like your eyes get numbed down to your environment where you only pick up on, you don't pick up on those fine details. You know, bringing you guys coming over from the US,
Right.
your eyes aren't used to the foliage, the vegetation, the scenery as itself. So I'm not, not to detract anything from it, but I reckon the people that live in that area would have a harder time finding them just because they're so used to the area.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
would agree with that.
I remember getting guys in. I remember and having friends over, and they would walk out and say, "Oh, look at the chameleon." I went, "Oh shit, I didn't even see that there, sitting right, like literally sitting there." You know, it's like Americans going to Madagascar with the chameleons in Madagascar. And I used to specialize in chameleons. You know, they go to Madagascar, and they're standing on the back of utes driving, or utes you guys call pickup trucks, driving at 100 kilometers an hour, and they from the back. There's a chameleon. I was going, what?
Wait, what?
Reverse like 200 meters because they've already gone past it that far. And there's the bloody chameleon sitting in the bush. So I've got this, I really do think that you sometimes need fresh eyes on something to not get clustered by the environment that they're in. But I mean, that's crazy. Seeing that, I mean, own belly. I saw one at, they had like a sub-adult at the Big Expo. Right. And just, they're not the prettiest snakes, but naturally, historically, they are so relevant, like it'd be something that I'd keep just because I can go. It's like the rough-scale python, like nothing spectacular, but the fact that they're so rare where they're from, that begs the question though, are rough-scales really as rare in the environment? I mean, as far as I know, not many Americans or foreigners have been in that territory where the rough-scale pythons are, but would they be easier to find if you're an American group going down there? Or is that the same scenario? I mean, that's stuff that I sort of toy with, like would they be that rare if you had fresh eyes on the territory looking for them? I don't know.
That's a trip that we have lined up at some point. So I don't know. Hopefully I can tell you and give you an answer to that to see if we can find a whole bunch of rough-scale.
Don't know. Flying into an area in a chopper with no, you can't step wrong there, mate. Like there's no help there. You can't even scream there. Nobody's gonna hear you out in there where the roughies are. But I mean that's crazy. How long did you guys stand there looking at that snake for? I mean that would have been the hardest thing to do, was leave and go.
Yeah, man. Oh, man, I don't know. It seemed like I don't even know. Maybe an hour and a half. I don't know. It was a long time that we were there because we couldn't believe we found it. We're just like, I can't believe we found it.
How do we get up there?
What can we do? I remember running through. When we were there the couple nights before, we found what we thought was a brown snake. Yeah. And I'm just running through the leaf litter without a care in the world to go to the other side of the tree, like just in, like there's nothing's gonna hurt me. What are you talking about?
I can't die.
Through,
You'll probably. If I die now, I'd be the happiest man. Who cares? Yeah. If I die now, who cares? I saw my own belly python. Yeah, I guess there'd be a lot of us like that. Was it in a regular touristy spot though? That you guys, was it a tourist area or was it like a little bit more bush?
No, it was at, I can't remember the name of the park. Oh, but it was at a park. Yeah.
So anybody could go there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It was it was really awesome.
It's
I mean,
it,
like,
it's like seeing the. I'm sure you saw that video of the tourist tour guide that was just walking there with a tour group, and there's this Pali crossing. Did you see that
oh
video?
yeah, yes, yeah, I saw that.
I don't know what it is. It looks like a children's python. You know,
You know,
going what?
well, you know, the thing that, again, this comes back to being in the environment, right? I remember as the sun was coming down, the four of us went and sat on the top of this rock escarpment, and we kind of talked about, like, okay, if you were an Owen Pelly python, what would they be doing? Where would they be at? How would we, like, all the time we're looking like down or like eye level or like in the rock escarpment. We're not looking in the trees, but like I noticed that like all the pictures that you see most of the time, they're in the trees eating birds.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We just started looking up, and there it was.
You know what they do? They do remind, you know, like then there's a lot of, you know, by looking at other species of boa and python, they seem to have very structurally, they adapt to, you know, in different parts of the world, they adapt to the area where they, and the type of hunting that they do, they look very similar in different parts of the world. Like, to think of one that looks like a Dominican, you know, those boas that Tom Crutchfield works with, those red Dominican boas. They look, and Argentine boas, they look very similar in the way that they built. Ompelli's longer, but those boas are known to hunt from crevices, and they use their bodies in wedging themselves in those crevices, and then they'll hunt from the edges when the bats come flying past.
Right.
And it's fascinating how these animals have evolved in different parts of the world structurally. And there's a word, I mean, I studied this years ago in zoology, you know, like there's a word for that. What is a word that they use if it's like emerald tree boas and tree pythons are very similar in their what is that? Divergent. No, is it divergent evolution? I think it's divergent evolution, isn't it?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that Ompelli would do that form, that same sort of stage hunting where they sit and wait for bats flying past, and that would mean that skinny body of them would give them a far further reach off a crevice because they've got that much long, they've got 2/3 hanging off. It's like black mamba does that as well. They've got those really long, slender bodies that they raise the first third of their body. They can lift off the road, and they hunt on rocks. Right. So it would make sense, thinking you looking at the rocks going, but it makes sense that they'd come and sit there, on trees and stuff, because they don't have that body weight that would just weigh them down. They'd be able to hunt something and still be able to grab onto the wherever they're sitting on.
Right. Yeah, it was like what we kind of noticed is that you started to see these trees that were right next to the rock escarpment.
Yeah.
So that, the snake would just come out and, just like you're saying, just sit right on those, on the tree and just wait for the bats to come flying out. And, there you go.
The cherry on the cake would have been that bat, it actually catching a bat and eating it in front of you. just to make it worse, true. Getting photos of a wild, of a Ompelli eating in the wild. I don't think that's ever even been documented either. It's crazy. So your next trip
was...
Yeah, sorry.
For that trip, obviously we wanted to find the pythons, and we found all of them except an olive python. We found a blackhead, we found a children's python, we found the Ompelli python, and this is funny because we're talking to Gavin. We were at the botanical gardens when we first came at the beginning of the trip, and we went there. We walked around. We're looking all over the place.
That's where you saw. That's where you saw a Darwin python, didn't you? You took a photo of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I saw that. Yeah.
So we're looking all over the place. We can't find one. And then we're talking to Gavin, and he's like, "Oh, I'll take you, and we'll find one." So he goes, and he just looks right up, and he's like, "Yeah, there it is, right there." I'm like, "What the hell?"
That was staged. That had to be staged. That had to be a long-term. That you had to know that's like was. Yeah, I bet you. Yeah. So no. But were you happy with finding a wild Darwin?
Oh my God, yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
Man.
That was really cool.
Somebody said here, Mitchell Hodgson said here, convergent. So it's convergent evolution. Divergent is where they start similar and move away from that overall shape. Convergence is where they move towards the same form, e.g. Morlock and horned lizards, crazy how
Right.
this evolution's such a great topic. We won't go into that there right now because I could talk. I could talk for days about that as well. Okay, so your next trip is scheduled for this coming week, and then how long are you in Australia for, mate?
2 weeks.
Oh, isn't it? That's your long. Is that not your longest trip yet? 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You were
The
fooling
longest
yourself.
one.
You were fooling yourself. I was watching you those first visits, and I went, "What are you doing? 7 days, like a week or something? That first trip of yours?"
Yes.
And I was
Yeah.
like, "Nah. You'll be spending at least 2 days of jet lag when you're doing that,
Right.
and then the rest of the time it's getting used to the climate.
Right.
2 to 3 weeks, I think, is a safe bet to travel Australia or to visit a part of Australia. It's too big to travel
Yeah.
in that short a time, you know."
Yeah. So yeah, this one is going to be 2 weeks, and the goal for this one is Imbricata because that's something I want to see. I've never seen one,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that we find a bunch of them.
Oh, that is one of the species that have eluded the smugglers over the years to
Yes,
get out of
I
us. I wonder why. Didn't Paul Harris have a single male imbricata from memory?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
What, so nobody. So there's none of them. So there's absolutely no imbricata that you know of outside of Australia.
That I know of. Yeah.
Crazy.
There's rumors of some being in Europe, but that's
Haven't been
you
seen
would
yet.
think by this point somebody would. I wish the Australians would export because I just throw money at you guys.
Hey, well, we all know how that goes, There are ways and there are ways, and there's ways to get caught as well, But I agree. It's like we said, we had a quick chat before we started the show, and we reckon we're definitely going to touch on that. I do think there's room for regulation, for legal export. I do think that, but then you have to get guys that you can trust. But I do think there's enough. There would be a couple or a handful of high profile reptile keepers in this country that we're able to put money together to set up a proper export facility from Australia, and I can only see the government gaining from it. I just don't know. I don't know the export, especially import. I doubt that Australia would ever lift that. I mean, they haven't budged on that since is it the Senate?
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot myself in the. I've said some stuff that I've had to backpedal on this show, so I'm trying to avoid that. But from when they introduced the Biosecurity Act, I can't think that they ever even slacked on opening the borders. I mean, and I don't understand. Like I said to you, they import tons of exotic fish. They import, I don't know, I think they're still allowed to import birds. I'm not sure. Somebody might be able to, Mitch might be able to correct me on that, because I know he's involved up in New South Wales with all the government stuff. But I just don't get it. Every other country in the world allows export and imports. Not every. I mean, I know Brazil's pretty tough on exportation. I think they're very tough on that. But even South Africa, where I'm from, before I left in the early 2000s, you couldn't. There's only one approved quarantine facility. Now they're all over the place. The animals come in from, guys like Jay Brewer and what's the other big carpet python breeder over there?
Carpet python?
No, the big Burmese python breeder, Burmese Retix and what's his name?
Bob Clark.
Bob Clark. These guys export a lot of stuff to South Africa, and South Africa also had a very strict policy of not allowed to keep any indigenous animals, which was weird. You could keep exotics as many as you want. They've toughened their laws a bit now about, like, carpet pythons have been outlawed in the northern parts of South Africa, because I can understand that. Carpet python could get out and become an issue because of the it's so similar. South Africa, Sure. When I got to Australia, I walked around here and I thought, man, I could be in South Africa. It looks the same. We've got gum trees as well. There's acacias. It's very similar climate, depending if you far in the north. So I can imagine that carpets would be an issue. Although, how many of them actually have to escape before they become an issue? We've got
Yeah.
we've got lions, you've got monitor lizards in South Africa. Even here, you've got stuff here that predates on snakes, and I can imagine something that's non-native would stand out to a lizard. A big lizard that would they chomp it down, and I mean, if they're not released in hundreds, I can't think that something would become a terror to the environment. I really don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, I guess, why you wouldn't want stuff coming into Australia, but I just don't understand why, stuff can't come out. But I guess that's just my my selfish ways.
You've got an agenda. Let's just admit it. You're not qualified to talk on this because you've got an agenda. Right. You can't be unbiased. Somebody's
I am biased. I will admit it.
You've had some encouraging posts here. Is somebody, Jeremy Noble says, I hope Australia closes the flights down and you have to stay here for longer.
Well,
are you worried about? Do you have to be worried about that? Aren't you worried about that?
A little bit, but here's the thing. I was talking to my boss, and he's like, "So what happens if you get stuck there and they close the flights down?" I said, "Well, I can't think of a better place to be stuck, man."
And I reckon you'd be okay. I reckon the Aussies would say, "Come on, Eric. You're coming down here. You're welcome in Victoria. You're welcome in New South Wales. Everywhere. You might as well.
Right.
If you get stuck here,
what the heck?
Get on a local flight, a couple $100, come over to Eastern Australia while you're here. Just hang out.
Why not?
Why not?" But I don't get it. Somebody said here as well, you're allowed to import pigeons. Who would want to import a pigeon from New Zealand?
Okay.
Weird stuff, man.
That's a weird one.
Let's quickly have a look here. The only birds that can be imported are pigeons from New Zealand. Somebody, Bob Clark. Then Mitch Hodgson says here again, as I understand it, exotic birds on the exotic list can still be legally imported, but the permits haven't been approved in forever. I know the Bird Lobby Group had a meeting with Federal Environment Office a year or so ago about making changes to it. So that's the other thing. You're allowed to keep macaws here without permits. African greys, now I speak under correction, but those you don't need a license for them. So I just don't get it. Why are reptiles such a no-go zone? And I mean, I'm all for upholding the law these days, and it's not worth breaking. It's just not. The penalties are so extreme now that it's really pointless. So there must be a way to do something. But that's the other thing. Tell us about what Carpet Fest is, the involvement of Carpet Fest, you guys with US Arc, because that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. So you set up Carpet Fest. This might roll well into the next part. So Carpet Fest, what's Carpet Fest's involvement with US Arc? Can you tell us about that, Eric?
So at the time that we were doing it, a lot of our rights to keep reptiles were under fire. And, it's one of those things where the general perception, at least in the U.S., is that, it's that no good snake is a good snake is a dead snake type of thing. And it's really changed over the years, in the past 10 years. And I think US Arc has a lot to do with that. It sort of united the community behind all communities of reptiles. We just wanted to try to support them and try to raise funds for them. And I think the first time we did it, we did like a T-shirt campaign, and we donated all the money to that. And then it wasn't soon after that we decided to do like an auction at the actual event, and then we did that, and then we donated all that money to US Arc. As of now, some of the other Carpet Fest chapters have, like the one in the Southeast Carpet Fest, they do a big thing for NITO research. That's their sort of big thing. But US Arc, we try to support them in any way that we can, because they're the first ones to alert us at the if it's at the federal level, at the state level, of any issues that could be upcoming regarding reptile keeping. And because a lot of times those laws will just slip through and you don't even know, and sometimes you don't even know you're breaking the law, because they changed the law, and it's not like they tell you that they changed this law. And I don't know. It's a good thing. It keeps the community together, I think.
And tell me, yeah, well, so with US Arc though, I mean that's something that I'm hoping that Carpet Fest sort of, you know, you have to get real people into a room to
Right.
run ideas, real ideas, because it's usually the guys that end up going to conferences and stuff like that that are the real, you know, they want to be part of the bigger picture. You know,
Right.
that to me is a real good indication of people that want to be proactive in, especially in their
Right.
local community when it comes to the reptile side of things. Now,
Yes.
US Arc though, I mean, I can sort of imagine that you can't, a lobbyist group would have to have their own lawyers and guys like that that understand the law, that can pull these guys up when they're trying to get out of line. So with US Arc, do they have their own? I think they've got a board from what I've got, because I've spoken to Phil Goss in the past. It's Phil Goss that's still in charge of the president of
Yeah.
the board, isn't he? So I
Yep.
know that
Hmm.
they've got a board, but do they have solicitors or lawyers and guys like that that represent the
Yeah.
group itself? And are they reptile
Right.
keepers? I mean, are those lawyers guys that actually keep reptile keepers, or do they employ? I mean, I might ask you stuff that you might not know, you know, but you'd know more than I would do about US Arc. So do they employ people to fight the legislation itself, or how do they do that?
Yeah. I mean, uh, some of the people that they do have do keep reptiles.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if you have people that are working together, they keep reptile. I mean, I think in the very beginning, it was kind of like, okay, we need somebody that's a lawyer. You know, are we able to find somebody? Oh, look, this guy keeps reptiles. You want to do this? Yeah. And then they, you know, and that's how they kind of brought that together.
Yeah.
As far as what they do, I mean, they were able to overturn. The one lawyer was able to overturn the whole Burmese python things where you couldn't ship them between state lines.
Yeah.
And although we can't import them anymore, we can now cross them over state lines because
Okay.
there was some kind of loophole in the Lacey Act that they were able to use to change that. So
But the Lacey Act was a perfect example of a law that snuck through
yes,
without much concept, because I remember that just popped out of nowhere. I mean, and the
yeah,
Lacey Act was federal law in the US is something that you can really get messed up with, because it gives
yes,
them ultimate power.
yes,
Regardless of what, they'll see stuff and,
yes,
and not even say sorry about it. They'll just go, "What, deal with it.
right, yeah,
So it's not just a matter of saying you're a lobbyist group and then things happen. You need to put the right places in, and you need to be a well put together unit that has its
yes,
different limbs that work to get the job done. And I think it's so missing in Australia. It really is something that is, and I can imagine that there would be guys out there that are barristers. In Australia we call them solicitors and barristers. I don't know if it's the same thing in there. But barristers are guys that specialize in specific fields of law. So you'll have guys that a barrister would specialize in, like family law, or he'd have it specialize in environment law. And I can imagine
okay,
there would be those guys out there that would have like one or two snakes that might not know. It might not even occur to them that there could be a threat
right,
at some stage on our reptile keeping. And it happens all the time in Australia. You find out that the government suddenly just brought out new cage restrictions. I think they had it in England as well, where they imposed laws on the
yes,
keepers that they have to now do their things in a specific way, and they have to have a specific cage sizes and whatever. And if it's not challenged, then it's like a walk in the park for these guys. They just do it, and yeah, okay, tough. We'll tell you what the outcome is, because we don't
yeah.
really care to hear about you.
A lot of times, like when they would do like the grassroots campaign to talk about these things, when you would talk to the people in the government, they didn't know. I mean, you're talking to your local senator and they have no idea about. They're just listening to somebody that's in front of them. So if it's an animal rights group or something like that, they're just going to say, okay, well, we're going to take you at your word, and we should put this law into effect, when in reality, maybe that's not the right thing for the animal, or maybe they'll just take animals out altogether. And sometimes the laws, they don't make sense. You're just
No.
like, wait.
But
Okay.
it's clear to see that the laws are sometimes made by people that have no idea.
Correct.
They're
Yeah.
in a position where they basically get shoved this in onto their desk, and they said, "Look, deal with this." And they might go
Right.
onto Google it, and if they Google the wrong thing, it's an absolute cluster. Like so.
Right.
When they start employing the right qualified people to deal with the specific job at hand, it will probably be a different thing. But I can't see that I can't see that happening soon. So to have a group. Sorry, we're talking a bit of politics here now and stuff. This is sort of veering off track. But I mean, it's important. It's important, I think, so it fits in with the whole Carpet Fest thing, that people start thinking about that. I know Troy Kuligowski used to have expos up in Queensland, and he used to have the audience with one of the ministers up there, that he was trying to show the benefits of having reptiles reptiles are a great aid in the community to show people, to make people aware that what their purpose and what their role is in the environment and stuff, because reptiles are important in the, where they occur.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think he said that eventually that sort of, like ministers move up and they move away and they move into a new territory, and then they're not in the same seat, where they used to, So it's hard to get one guy, to sort of focus on and say, look, like we've got the right guy. This is what we plan to do. This is the value of having, expos legalized. I mean, in Queensland they can't have expos there because it needs to be going through a reptile society. It's the same in Victoria. The only people that can have a reptile expo in Victoria, where I am, is the Victorian Vic Herb Society. And I think, man, it can be so much better with, like, you could have 6 expos here in Victoria. What that does for the economy, the first thing is the economy. There's money. There is money to be made by the government. And it's hard to sell it like that. But you know what? Money talks at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So find the right guy to sell the idea to that. Look, exports could generate $1 billion industry. I doubt it would be but there'd be a lot of money involved. It may be a multi-million-dollar industry if exports can be legalized out of Australia, especially when it comes to reptiles. And it would have zero impact on, I can't think that it would even have impact on wild populations, because because you'd have to prove that the animals were captive bred to export them. If it's captive stock.
Right.
Why not?
Right. Yeah, it's that was a big turning point for with US ARC, was from becoming looked at as a hobby to becoming an industry. Yeah. And the reptile industry in the US, like once I think politicians started seeing that there was money, because think about it, you're going to a reptile show. Yeah. You're going to go stay at a hotel. You're going to rent a car. You're going to go out to eat. All these things that help the local economy, all because you're going to this reptile show. I mean, and like once you started to look at that, the impact of not having that I think would be pretty significant, at least in the U.S.
I mean, how many million people is there in the U.S. Currently? When was the last census done there?
I don't know. Too many.
Not enough reptile keepers still. There's still not enough reptile keepers.
We need more.
And I think, I mean, I remember you at one stage, you said something about a kid, you do these giveaways at the Carpet Fest as well, and there's lots of kids and there's interaction with it. I remember I saw a show of you and you gave a kid a snake. What happened there again? And I thought, man, was it at one of your Carpet Fests that somebody was looking at a snake and you said to him, well, yeah, you can have it? Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, that's right. There was
that's what it's about, man.
I don't know. I think that for me, I remember when I was a kid and how excited I was when I, being in the snake. And here was this kid's, he's sitting there and he's looking at me as like the, the podcast guy and whatnot. And, he wants to get a snake. So I'm just like, I said, you know what? I'm going to give you this one. I said, you pick whatever snake you want. out of these snakes, pick whatever one you want. It's yours. He's like, his dad's like, well, we have to pay for it. No, I'll pay for it. I'm like, no. I'm just giving it to you, man.
Use the
It was a
money. Use
striped
the
bread
money.
line.
Oh yeah, a stripe. We don't even have them here. Makes me sick how generous you are, Eric. Why can't we have him?
I'm giving him out as party favors.
Oh yeah, you just have this recessive morph bread line that we need in Australia. Just take it.
Yeah,
But
no problem.
but you know what? I looked at it and I thought, that's what it's about, man. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the guys that are in it and our mates and the shit that we do and the stuff that we breed. Sure. It is it's those where we started, those little kids standing there at the guys in his garage with his snakes and just listening. And just we not Wernie, Wayne's World, he's standing there and this guy's this guy's a reptile. God. In my day you couldn't find people like you find them now. You had to literally it was luck running into somebody that was a freak like you that liked reptiles. And I remember going to, we had a society in Johannesburg, it was called the West Rand, was it the East Rand Herpetological Society? And there I met some of the guys that were working with exotics. And I remember going to a guy, Daryl Carpenter was a guy that was one of the big breeders in Johannesburg at that stage. And I was like, I wasn't a kid anymore, but I was sort of just like first year uni, just out of high school and stuff. And I remember going to that guy, and it was wall to wall. I didn't even know this stuff was there. Corn snakes, king snakes, bull snakes, gopher snakes, boas. He had a female that just, and this stuff's burnt into my mind. And I remember standing there. I remember he had like a warm water heating service stuck in, those big metal tube ones that used to stick out of the those radiators sitting out of the wall.
Yeah.
And over that, he'd mounted a big 4-foot aquarium that literally that heat would raise, warm the water. That water would evaporate and humidify that whole garage. It was like a double car garage. And I just stood there, and I remember he just had time. That's something that you can't get this day anymore, is time. People just willing to stand there and go, man, thank you for, like now, you're giving me your time. There's something you can't buy in this life, and it's what we're doing now. You can never, so let's use it wisely. And I think that's what the whole carpet, I can see I'm very passionate about this stuff, but I can see how an event where youngsters, and it's the youngsters that matter, can come and just listen and just sit there and just take it in and understand, but this is what I want to do for the next 50 years of my life, regardless of what happens. I love these guys are willing to share. And I think a lot of the guys that I've spoken to so far are more, I know the senior guys in what I do, the morph stuff, let's say the guys that have really played a role in the last 10, 12 years when it comes to the mutation stuff. And they are all saying, man, I'm there, count on me, because we want to make this, we want to give back. Like that's the thing. You want to give back and keep giving back. And eventually, there's a lot of power in giving something without wanting something back for it. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that generosity is sometimes you get rewarded for that type of generosity eventually down the line,
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's even the whole concept of the podcast is sort of the same thing. It's sharing that information, and you're absolutely right. I'm so what's the word? Humbled every time that I talk to guys that I look up to when they come on the podcast, and they want to share this information and put it out there. And when I get the messages back from people that listen to the podcast and say, oh man, I didn't have luck keeping this species and now I do, and I was able to listen to this guy and put this information together, and now I'm breeding this this species, and it's great. I love that, man. I love
Mark Taylor says, I love these chats coming from overseas. I get to learn so much from such experienced keepers, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
We've been on for an hour 20. You still all right over there? You don't drink?
Yeah.
Haven't had
still good.
Maybe have a sip of drink and just lubricate the throat up so we can go for another hour.
Yeah.
But it's funny how you can.
There we go.
But it's funny how when this stuff's in your blood, man, you can't. Man, I was at that Penrith Expo. I wanted to make more videos, but I found myself just roped into conversations the whole day. I got back on Sunday night, and Monday I just wanted to stay quiet. I just wanted to sit there and go. I think I've been broken. I'm all reptiled out. I don't know if you've been there. You sort of go.
Oh yeah.
If I never say anything about a carpet snake ever again in my life, it'd be too short. And then the next day you're ready. Let's go. What's happening? Messages. You can't stay away from it. And I think that's there we go. There's a few. Emma McKinney, I think I said that's her name right. She says, thanks for the calendar. I saw that you sent her a calendar for the Lunar Python. Yeah.
Oh, see that jungle they have, that striped jungle.
That's
Woo!
crazy, huh? There are some stuff that where would you say, in your opinion, where would we, I think it's neck and neck at the moment with the quality of.
You guys are kicking our ass.
Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's just, I don't know. I look sometimes at your guys, the stuff that's over there, and just like that albino granite jag that you were showing on the video. I was like, what? Wait a minute. I've never seen an albino granite jag look like that.
But, we were all, I was as well a little bit surprised. I think I said it in that video. I said, because I've been joking with Brent, because I've said, I know how to work a camera, in my own humble opinion, and I know when people, I can sort of spot when, sometimes you can see when people have modified, the thing is the mobile phone cameras do stuff by their own will these days, it's all artificial AI driven saturations and stuff like that. So I can look at a photo and the grass is, your subconsciously, your mind knows when something's a little bit off about a photo. I'm sure you know, so the grass is a little bit too green, it's too bright, then your mind goes, there's something wrong. You don't know exactly, but there's something wrong with that picture. And I looked at Brent's, one of his first photos. He always shows this sort of, he's a little bit cryptic with what he shows on the internet. And I can understand why, if you've got a high value collection like he does, you don't want to show everybody everything, because it just puts a bullseye on your back. But I remember saying to him, I said, I reckon that's your Samsung. We always joke about iPhone and Samsung, the age-old argument. And he said, no, that's how that snake looks. And I went down there. I didn't see that snake at all until we made that video. And as he opened that, he said, I'm going to show the not so good one first. I remember him opening that tub, and I started laughing because I just went, "Are you for real? Is that even real?" Because your eyes don't lie,
Right.
And I thought, but and then I spoke to Darren for the first time in a while at the Penrith Expo, and he said, he's got stuff. He still hasn't shown the world. He's got some stuff that he hasn't shown that he made this year, and he doesn't know what he's looking at, because they've never been made. That's
in there. Yeah.
That's a terrible life to live, isn't it? I'm looking at snakes that we don't even know what these things are. I'm waiting for them to grow up a little bit, So I'm hoping to see some photos. It almost felt there for a while that everything was made. Even that stuff, that granite, is it a granite zebra, caramel granite zebra jag that you've got, and you've got just a straight granite as well.
Yeah.
I saw you post those and I went, oh, wow. Because what hypo does, if it was a hypo that you use, it wouldn't have been that, I can imagine it wouldn't have been that flaky, the spotty, So putting some mutations together sometimes has a negative effect on the overall appearance of the animal. Like they found that with ball pythons as well, that if you add too many genes, you eventually don't know.
Washes it out.
Yeah, you don't know what you're looking at. And I thought, man, that is a. You said you had an issue. Was a poor starter, wasn't it? It's good. Doing it right now.
Yeah, it's good now. Yeah.
And I looked at it and I went, man, it almost felt like it was getting a bit stale You know, I remember there was a big year, you know, Oliver Weiss at Precision Reptiles, you know, he had a couple of, about 4 or 5 years ago, he had a massive year, and Paul Harris had a massive year where there was so much new stuff. And then it sort of tapered down. But, you know, we sort of work at an exponential rate now where we go, okay, it's 2 gene animals, then it's 3 gene animals. And I'm not even sure if we can make 4 gene animals with it. We should be able to make 4 gene animals now. But we forget that there's a significant amount of time in between each of those breedings before the results come out. So I reckon I reckon this year, I think this year is going to be a massive year for new stuff. And I'm hoping Australia goes ahead in the race, you know, but I'm biased.
I think you guys are. I mean, I think we have some nice stuff, and we probably have some stuff that you guys wish you guys had, you know, that was down there, probably like the striped bredli, but like there's way more stuff that we wish we had on this end.
Yeah, I still think the striped bredli would. I think that would still be something that would, but you guys have an issue with that. I mean, you've seen all that. Where do you stand on that? I can't remember ever hearing. Where do you stand on bredli crosses? And don't worry, nobody's going to judge you here.
You know, for me personally, it was always one of those things where that was my line in the sand. You know, it would be where I'm not going to do this. Yeah. And then I started seeing some of the stuff that you guys had down there that you were making, and I started saying, well, I could,
it's moving.
I'm not against it at all.
Yeah, the line's moving.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the albino bredli was like, oh my gosh, that was that was amazing. So I don't know. I think if I were to do it myself, I would probably buy a project to where I would produce just all straight, like no,
do visuals.
I hate to say it this way. All visuals, all, you know, something like that. I probably would do that.
So you could never say, but I put a sibling or I put a het out. I mean, that makes sense. To me, that was always the thing as well. When I used to breed, my big thing was no siblings leave the building. You know, I was very hard. You know, I was hardcore, and I look back at culling snakes, and I'm like, man, it's something I'll never be proud of. You know, but at the end of the day, I can honestly say that anything that left my operation was a visual, it was a visual jag. Visual jag, visual albino. You know, I never really got rid of this stuff because I'm such a bloody hoarder. You know, I hoard everything. You know, all of us are like that. You know, but the stuff that I was worried about that could cause issues down the line never left. And in one part, I'm sort of, you know, I'm disappointed that I could stoop that low to kill snakes because I love them. You know, like I mean, it's a tough call to make. But on the other side, I feel that I might have protected. You know, I can't control what other guys do with the stuff that left, but I feel that I probably I protected what I thought was another part of the industry, and I think that's what the purists' biggest worry was. That there was just going to be stuff dumped into the hobby and I can see that. I mean, I can see a lot of people are advertising snakes now that they don't know what the orange is. They don't know what genetic makeup they've got. They don't know what locality they are. Luckily, it's sort of dwindling out, but they still end up somewhere in a collection that they get bred again. You know?
Yeah, the thing is like, you know, for us in the States, the question I get probably the most is what I call it, what is my carpet python? And it's like, look, somebody sold this to me as a coastal. Is this a coastal carpet? And you look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, I guess it kind of could be a coastal carpet, but without knowing what the parents are, who the breeder was, you'll never know, you know, you'll never know what it is. And 9 times out of 10, those people go on to breed it, and then they'll breed. I don't understand sometimes, it seems like the one thing that I will say is a little bit different between Australian mutation breeders and American Australian or American mutation breeders is that we're just trying to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Where it seems like
Yeah.
you guys have a little more, like you have an idea of where you're going with that. Okay, well, this snake has this trait. I'm going to add it to this one because I think it's going to, make this other trait, be so much better, and at the end of the day, you're making a pretty snake.
But you know what what you're saying as well, one thing that we managed to fix by just putting all our minds together was the fact that we call incomplete dominant.
Yes.
And co-dominant doesn't exist.
Right.
Remember in Larry's time and in Reptile Radio's time, it was co-dom. That's one thing that I think as a community, the top guys went, man, but let's do it can be. I'm surprised that they fixed it because I used to be fixated on that because I was like, what are you saying? It's not because I know science, like I'm rusty, but I had the formal training that I know what co-dom is and I know what incomplete dominant is. And to me, it was always like somebody driving an ice pick into my ear when I heard somebody say, refer to a jag as a co-dom. And I was like, what? But that seemed to have been something that because everybody just made a concerted effort. I hope I use that word right, to change it. And I can say now, I can honestly say that I've not heard carpet guys talk co-dom in years. I don't think I've noticed it at all. It's incomplete dominant. That's it. Recessive. They make a effort to and I think it's good. Overall, that was a good thing for the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of the same thing with the Poplin carpets and the IJs, IJ rolls off the tongue so much easier. It sounds better to me, IJ, it's what I know. But, if it's not right, why do we, why would we keep saying the wrong thing? It's kind of, I guess, incomplete dominant and co-dom is a little bit different because that's not a common name, but.
But it also took guys to crack the shits. It took the names to crack the shits about it and gone, that's wrong, and kept and not back down on it. It has a lot to say. Like if you, it's when you just give up and then people keep doing the wrong thing. But if sitting back and not saying something is also an action. So to constantly say, man, it's not IJ, it's bad. Eventually it sinks in. Eventually we all go, okay, well, if that we all strive to have the best, most accurate information, let's do it. Even I know. I used to call it IJ. Now it's Papuan. I know because we've been corrected, and I do believe that we have some of the best scientific minds in the carpet pythons have got some clever guys in it.
Oh yeah.
We have
100%.
some. Compared to some of the and I'm not, no offense to the ball python guys, but there's a lot more understanding when it comes to carpet pythons to understand the whole group of animals as they would be to understand ball python, Python regius.
I think when you look, at least in the U.S., the difference is that the Morelia community geeks out about the snake, and the ball python. And this is not everybody, so I'm not trying to bash the ball python people or whatever, but they're more about the business side of it, whereas like you never hear a guy at a show talk about, oh, I found this locality ball python, it's the coolest thing, look at this, you know what I mean? They're just not gonna talk that way.
No.
Whereas
I saw is it Underground Reptiles? I think it's
okay.
They were selling, and just an ad I saw online yesterday, they were selling unopened bags of ball python babies out of Africa.
Yes.
It's like, you've seen those ads. It's crazy, man. Like, they're selling it.
Because
you could find something. Man, that's weird. Ball python people. Huh?
And that's sort of like, that's sort of where it's geared. And that's another thing that changed me about when I went to Australia is, I appreciate the actual wild type carpet python for what it is. And, when you see it in the wild, you're like, oh man, this is amazing, but yeah, I don't know. Those guys are geared more towards the, there's certain people, like I have to look at Justin Kabilka, that guy.
Oh, good.
I mean,
Yeah.
what he does with, his mind and how he just sees into the future, and he'll take a gene that nobody cares about, and then he
Turn it to
releases
gold.
this crazy mutation, and they're like, all of a sudden something that was $50 is now like $500, and
And then everybody follows suit, But he did but if you
Yeah.
ever, you've had him on the show, haven't you? Did you ever, have you heard about Justin Kabilka
No.
on Morelia? I listened
no.
to a show of him in the early days, and
Right.
literally it was clever thinking and smart moves that got him past the rest, because he started just like all of us with a small collection. He just made really clever first buys, and it's the same with Don Patterson. Don Patterson in Canada has always been. He's also been one of those guys. I mean, did you see those Stonewash Jags that he's got? I mean,
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean,
That was another one.
and that black
Oh, man.
that black thing that he had, I don't even know what. I mean, I looked at him and what? That black, it's like a black super zebra, but it's not. It's like I don't even know what you'd call that thing. I don't know. I hope he proves it out. It should be breeding size now. I'm hoping it's.
Yeah, I think we had him on the show, and he talked about that, and I want to say that was a diamond zebra.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've always said there's something to these really, really, really intricately patterned zebras that had diamond origins. I mean, you could look at some of the stuff that guys have made from diamond zebras, and they've turned out really And I think I contacted him about that as well, and I said I wouldn't be surprised. I think if I go back through the years of conversations, I reckon I reached out to him. I said, I think it looks very similar to something with a diamond in it, but who cares? Who cares?
Right.
It's a beautiful snake. I'd rather have a room full of randoms that doesn't exist in any other collection than have something that's predictable every time.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's crazy. Somebody asked you something to. Let's just go through some of these, mate. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
Emma also asked, "What is your favorite animal that you've bred?" I mean,
my favorite animal that I've bred. Probably my melanistic popwin carpet project. That's an ongoing thing for me, but that was probably my favorite. Hoping that proves out. So
I was wondering, what was that poison ivy? What is it? Poison ivy, that really dark one of yours? What was that? Was that the really black? Yeah, we know this stuff, man. We know that. It's when you see us carpet python guys know when you see something that's nice. You immediately know that it's nice. Those really black. It was the same as that friend of mine, Eugene Maton, over in South Africa, that had something similar. Remember there was another, that South African pitch black. In Johannesburg.
I've talked to him many times about that. Yeah.
And now they've made it terrible to keep carpet pythons where he's from. So that's why you don't hear from him anymore. I don't even know. I don't even know what's happening with the carpet pythons over there. Somebody said, I don't really want to talk about pricing with the big guys, in the world. I don't really want to go into. There's a question here about star pythons, but we won't go into that on the show, because really we're here to, what people do with business is what they do with business. So let me think of anything else. So what's ahead? What plans have you got now after Australia? You're coming for the next Carpet Fest that we've already discussed that. You'll be over here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll organize one for just you guys. Bring a bunch of Americans, and I'll organize that. You guys, or I'll hope to organize some of the guys to show you the collections that they've got, because you haven't done a trip you haven't done a morph. I don't want to use morph. Well, I hate that word. Yeah. You want to do
keep it clean.
Yeah, you want to do a mutation trip down under and bring as many.
That would be amazing.
And I reckon you'd have a group of Americans that want to see that stuff as well.
Oh heck yeah. Seeing a silver pepper. Oh. Man, woo!
Seeing a whole table full of them, that's just sickening. You look.
It's probably normal to you guys now, but man, that's one of my favorites. That one there, that mutation is. Ooh.
Yeah, they are nice, and I mean they remind in the early days, I didn't realize, you also say inlands are very underrated, you know.
Yes.
But all you have to do is you have to keep them for a while to realize, they do color shifts as well, you know.
Yeah.
They do that silver thing and then they do that grey thing. It's the same as their own pellies, they do the darker, lighter, rough scale pythons. They all do that color shift. I haven't really noticed that in Darwins and things like that from the north. But all these carpets that sort of live in colder environments. I don't know, pelly doesn't live in cold environments, so I'm shooting so that doesn't make sense. But the carpets that are from colder regions have got that color shifting thing that they do. And man, that's spectacular. It's like, like you got two snakes in one and everything in between. Yeah.
You go in and you see it, it looks a different way. You're like, oh, wow. Yeah.
Hang on. Have I got a hypo there? And then the next day it's grey and you go, no, you don't. Yeah.
Well, this will be the first year I'm trying to breed diamond python. So I have a reduced pattern diamond I guess it's a high end. Actually breed right now, locked up as I sit here. I'm in the diamond room, so that will be exciting for me. I've never bred them before.
It seems like there's been a flare up in popularity of the diamonds as well. Now that it's like it's like up and down. Or it's like it's like a roller coaster in the hobby. Where animals fall in and out of grace. And then nobody makes them. Then everybody wants them. Then people start making them, and then it comes down. But diamonds have always been. I remember seeing the first diamond. When I was a kid, I've always been a bit crazy. We all are a little bit crazy. But we used to. I saw my first reptiles magazine when I was would have been about 15 or 16. Okay. And then. I met a friend that had their parents had a bit of money and they had a fax machine, and we ended up calling. We could never do international phone calls. It was way too expensive. So the one day we at his house and he had this big underground. His dad had a safe like a walk-in safe for some reason, and it was like a whole room underneath their house, and he had all his snakes in there. And I remember the fax machine was down there, so nobody could monitor us. And it was still expensive but faxing, we thought, okay, phone call's going to be too expensive. Fax might be cheaper. So what we did was we quickly rung Tom Crutchfield and said to him, we're calling from South Africa, could you please fax us your price list? Because that's how it worked. So he's like, yeah, no worries, mate. It was not, give us a moment. What's your number? We gave him the prefixes, because it was still the round thing that we do, the old roundy dial for, And you know what? We said, nah, no way he's going to do that. True as God. 10 seconds later, the fax goes, and that scroll, it's like a bloody one of these ancient scrolls just pushed out of that, and it was just full of stuff. Gaboon adders, rhino vipers. It was like a candy store just on a page. And I remember seeing they had diamond. You remember how they used to mix them? There was diamond jungle crosses because they never used to be able to do the diamonds. Never used to survive on their own because now we know that it's too hot, constantly too warm, that they don't like it. And I remember it was something stupid like $8,000 a pair, something ridiculous for a half cast, like for a mongrel diamond. Yeah. Now suddenly, you guys have those starter. Have they proved out? Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit now because I just get I love thinking back of this stuff that we used to do. Like this stories you'd never know. Nobody would know this unless we put it out there. Did they prove what happened to the star? Like you guys have got that reduced pattern diamond. What is the mode of inheritance with those snakes? Does anybody know now?
I believe it's recessive. I think the diamond python community kind of they kind of slept on that, and that should have been proven by now. But I believe from all the information that I see, I think it's recessive.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm doing an unrelated pair this year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I wanted to say yours looked like it was a genetic, that was like a recessive type thing. So you should know because they're stunning snakes. What
Oh,
what
beautiful.
what type of now I'm going to do all the cross examination here. So what type of temperature have you got that? Because you told me that room that you're in is where the diamonds are. What
Right.
type of temperature do you run that room at the moment? And okay, I'm going to have my phone ready so I can do the conversion, because you guys don't use you don't use Celsius like the rest of the world. You just want to be fancy.
Yeah,
you
I know. Right now it's at 73 degrees Fahrenheit is the ambient temperature in the room.
73. Let me just quickly check it. So 73. So it's hold on. Why is it doing that? So I just want to swap it over. So 22 degrees Celsius, and you
Right.
drop it. Do you drop it further than that though?
During the wintertime, yeah. It'll go down to, I think the lowest I got at this season was, I'm trying to look at the note that I had, was about 58 degrees
Oh, okay.
Fahrenheit.
Okay. Because they can go a lot lower than that, but I mean, you don't want to mess. You don't want to push the boundaries too far. Have you managed? Have you bred diamonds before?
No, this is the first time.
First. What does she look like? You'd know what they look like by now and feel like when they starting to ovulate and stuff like that. What do you reckon? Have you got a good shot this year, or what do you think?
Well, we're right at the beginning. So I guess March 1st is when I started bringing the temperatures back up, because we started getting warmer temperatures here. I gave them a meal, one meal to get them going, and then I put them together, and they've been locked ever since. That was like 2 weeks ago, and now they're going strong. So it looks like she looks like she's building follicles from what I could see, but.
And from what you know, are they seasonally later than the rest of the carpet pythons in the US? Because I know diamonds are sort of the last ones to go in Australia. They're up there with Murray's. It's Murray's. It's Darwin's, jungle, coastal, sort of the same time of year, and then we move into inland. Bredli, diamond, and then as far as I know, I think Imbricata's right at the end. I mean, Imbricata is crazy breeding cycle. So is it the same over there? What have you found? Is there sort of a predictable, same sort of...
Pop ones will always go first.
Yeah.
They seem to be like just a slight change in temperature. From what I've seen with them is that they seem to respond more to weather patterns. Mm-hmm. Snow here is the snake breeder's best friend here on the Northeast, but any kind of change in pressure, put your snakes together and, you're off to the races.
Yeah. That's cool. So we should know in a few months. And if you've, I'm sure we've probably majority of people that watch this show definitely monitor everything else that's happening in the carpet. You have to be a serious hardcore carpet python guy, And do you still have the Morelia Pick of the Week group going as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's also, I think that group's older than the podcast. Or when did you start that? After the podcast or prior to the podcast?
Right around the same time. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. It was, that's bittersweet for me because it killed the forum. It killed the Morelia Python forum. But
I think that was inevitable. I think forums are doomed.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know what's happening with the whole Facebook thing. I mean, I remember, the clamping down of the reptile sales and those type of things. I don't know. I don't know if there'll be an intervention at one stage because there is a lot of power involved in the whole Facebook thing, whether they're too big to control now. I don't know. That's maybe a topic for another discussion. And I guess, we have to see what happens with the trends in the world, but
sure.
I think we'll get the carpet. I don't know. Almost at 10 minutes away from 2 hours. We'll sort of cut it short then. But I don't think it's the last time that I'm going to see you on. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah.
we might get you on when. Okay. You'll probably be out snake hunting most of the time when you're in Perth.
Probably, yeah.
But I'm sure there'll be times where we'll dial you up on Skype and see how you guys are going up there while you're over here. Yeah. How many of you are coming now for this trip?
There's just 3 of us.
And with names? This time. Who are the guys coming?
Rob Stone and Riley Jimison.
Rob's been here before. Has Riley been here before?
No, this is his first time.
Oh, Australian Virgin, eh?
Yes, man. Yeah. I
Well,
get excited about that too because I feel like
you're the senior
I'd say
now.
the whole time I'm like, you're not gonna understand, man. I can't explain it to you, but when you get off the plane and you're in there, you'll get it. You'll get it. And
Yeah.
I said this to Owen forever, and
Yeah.
he finally understood.
Watch out at Perth Airport though, man. Those customs don't have anything snake on you, like anything related to snake. Not even a snake book. If you've got a guide, buy it in Australia. Don't carry it on. I remember coming to Perth originally when I came to Australia, and I wasn't involved in anything dodgy in those days. But I remember coming through at Perth Airport because they've got there's a drive. You have to get in a bus and drive from the international terminal to the domestic terminal. And I was literally standing outside the international terminal waiting for the bus when two customs officers came walking directly up to me. I was just standing there going, I'm always sketchy on an airport, It's something that I just look dodgy, And I still had the goatee and I had a little camo hat. I was traveling on my own. In Australia, don't do that. Don't ever travel by yourself if you're coming to Australia because you have red flagged immediately. They see you coming. They see you coming out of the airport door, 500 meters away, and they'll start pointing. Go there, down that cattle runway down there, and start unpacking your stuff so we can come and see what you've got. And I was literally standing outside at that airport, outside that gate, and I saw these customs officers. Two of them approached me and they said, "Mr. Bourneman, we have reason to believe that you're carrying illegal reptiles, and we're going to frisk you now." And they literally frisked me down into the crevices, into the cracks, into they touched areas that haven't been touched in many, many moons, and they were nothing on me, and I just went, "Welcome to Australia, eh? There we go, beautiful." So please be careful. Please be careful.
No snake stuff.
No. They're tough. They're tough in WA, but I'm sure you'll find. It's wild. It's like most of Australia. Though, from what I went over there on a work conference at one stage, and I was surprised. It's literally 10 minutes and you're in the bush. It's like it's ridiculous. Probably the same as what it would have been up in the Northern Territory, up in Darwin when you were there. You went to Darwin, didn't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I haven't been up that far because I think I'll melt. That's why, I seriously, I don't want to risk it, man.
Wasn't that bad.
I don't know if my meat would survive, I'd probably just cook there, I like my cold climate areas,
Big puddle.
Yeah. So let me just see if there's anything else here. Back in the day, there was a guy called Stan Chiros. Is it Chiros in the US who specialized in diamonds? Is he still around? Do you know of a Stan Chiros?
Yeah, he was on the show. You could listen to his episode. He kind of was controversial because of the way that he approached. He was the guy that, I don't know if you remember, he had the Reptiles magazine article where he said you put the diamond pythons in a styrofoam box and put them in your garage out in
I was gonna mention that, but they do that up in Queensland as well.
Really?
The guys hibernate, because it's too constant. It's always warm. It's like Nick used to say that it was like they've got a heightened metabolism because they constantly sitting in warm enclosures. They need that cooling down to slow their lives. I don't know, with some technical stuff that he was talking about. Even sometimes Nick says stuff that I sort of I'm sort of trying to. What was that? I haven't heard. What was that?
Right.
You know how it goes. So, Darren Boswell. So I think Darren's been around as well. I think when I got to Australia, I think he was working. He still works with a lot of carpets and stuff like that. So tell us,
cool.
where can people get a hold of you? Where can they see more of what you're doing? Give us, this is your platform now to selfishly promote yourself on this channel. So go ahead.
Okay. For myself, ebmorelia.com is my website. I still have a website. I'm not a Facebook website guy. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I do have a YouTube, but I've kind of slacked off on that as of late. It's a lot, man. It's a lot of work doing YouTube and videos and stuff. But and then I do a podcast every week called Morelia Python Radio, which we've been doing forever. But you can find me there, those two spots. So
awesome. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Appreciate
for. I've already thank you for, like it really, I think it's inspirational what you guys are doing over there for the carpet python industry as a whole. And like I hope me and myself and the guys that are involved in this carpet fest, I hope we can do the whole thing justice. And I think we're sort of on the right track. I just want to also tell the people, like I'll probably be putting out a list of there's already I think 9 spots filled, and I'm doing something different. I've booked the venue, and what I'm thinking is it's got a stage there, and what I want to do is I want to have a table with a couple of guys sitting around it with a drink, and just have a slideshow where there's a projector as well. Go through some slides of the stuff that they've worked with, and get sort of just a very casual, laid back conversation going about what was the mindset behind making. Sorry, I've been drinking way too much soda water here because I'm on a diet health kick. I don't know how to be healthy about soda water, but it's better than fizzy drinks. But the venue's great. I've had a look at it yesterday. I'm sort of a few of the speakers have been a little bit tentative about they're watching the coronavirus thing unfold.
Sure.
I'm of course the type of person that would go ahead regardless of if I'm half dead on the day, I'd still go down there because that's just how I am. So I'm not going to let that hit. But I understand that there's fears around this corona outbreak rubbish. I'll have to watch my language on the show as well. But the show will go on if I'm alive still. And a lot of the guys have just gone, unless they close the airports down and, to seize our cars and tell us we can't go interstate, then, unless we're in jail somehow, it's still going to go on, So,
awesome.
So it'd be a lot more later. It's not, a lot of people are thinking, conference style thing. There'll be some, like Shane Simpson's just looking at his calendar, but he said he'll definitely be there. Definitely an update. We didn't even touch on nidovirus and the viruses and stuff like that. But maybe that's something for another show because it'd be good to compare notes on what's happening in the US with their nidovirus, and it's starting to pop up more in Australia as well, and compare and see what guys are finding over there versus what. And I'm hoping that now that we've done our first show together like this, that we can do some more of these and have other guys, because we can split that screen into 4 and have a real international flavor into these shows. And it's good to compare notes. If the technology makes it available to us, why not do it?
Why not? Why not? Yeah. 100%.
And I just have to congratulate us both on the quality of the stream. The visuals, the lights, the mics. This doesn't just happen. It takes a bit of money to do this. So, but mate, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I think there'll be a lot of views of this when people start realizing that it's right in the middle of the day. People be with their families and stuff. And but it gives us 2 hours of non-coronavirus filled programming.
Thank God.
Yeah, and do yourself a favor, go and have a look at it on YouTube, because the YouTube feed's YouTube's high definition, 1080, I think. So it's a lot better than this. But enjoy your trip in Australia. I'll probably be in touch to see how you guys are going.
Okay.
You should do a live stream from the bush when you're out there. People watch that stuff.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit to this day.
Have to do it.
When you can have a camera on your phone, you can do anything. So.
Right.
But thank you everybody for watching. I'll call it a night here. Good luck on your trip, mate. Good luck with all the stuff that you're involved in over there. And we are hoping to see you next year at Carpet Fest Australia, 2021.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in.
Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks, everybody. Good night.